Have you ever walked away from a negotiation just scratching your head wondering what on earth just happened? Whether you're buying a car, asking for a raise, or trying to close a huge business deal, there are these powerful kind of invisible forces at play. Well, today we are pulling back that curtain. We're going to reveal the hidden dynamics that are really shaping every single negotiation you will ever have.
So what is it? What really drives the final outcome? Is it just about who's the slickest talker? Or who has the most facts and figures on their side? Well, the real answer is, honestly, so much deeper and more fascinating than that. It's all about learning to see the invisible currents flowing between the people at the table.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with those unseen forces. Then we're going to break down how to actually identify power and why dependency is so important. After that, we get really practical and learn how to decode the cues that give everything away. And finally, we'll see how it all fits together when it's time to navigate the final decision.
Okay, first up, the unseen forces. I want you to think of these as the fundamental laws of physics for any negotiation. They're always there, whether you see them or not, and they are quietly shaping everything that happens.
See, at the heart of it all, every single negotiation boils down to two key dynamics: power and dependency. You really can't understand one without the other. They're like two sides of the same coin, and they completely set the stage for everything that's about to unfold. So let's dive into power first. We throw that word around all the time, right? But what does it really mean when you're sitting across from someone at the negotiating table?
To put it simply, power is just the ability to influence both the process and the outcome. And listen, it's not always the person with the fancy job title. No, it's the person who can steer the conversation, who can put new options on the table, or, and this is a big one, the person who has the freedom to just get up and walk away.
And that brings us to the other side of that coin, dependency. This, right here, is where the true power balance in any situation gets revealed.
Dependency is all about need. It's that simple. How badly do you need what they're offering? And just as important, how badly do they need what you've got? The person who is less dependent, the one who has more options, more alternatives, and is more willing to walk, well, that's usually the person holding more of the power. Getting a feel for this interplay is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so power and dependency, they're great concepts, right? But how do we actually see them in a real-life conversation? Well, that brings us to our next part, decoding the cues. This is where these abstract ideas become totally visible.
And what's so wild is that people are constantly, and I mean constantly, signaling their level of power and dependency through what they say and what they do. If you learn to spot these tells, you can read the room on a completely different level.
Let's start with the verbal stuff. It's all in the tiny details. Listen to their word choice. Are they using assertive language, like, my requirement is, instead of something more hesitant, like, well, I was kind of hoping for? What about their tone and pace? Is it calm, steady, measured, or is it all rushed and anxious, maybe hinting that they're nervous about losing the deal? And pay attention to who's asking the questions. The person asking the questions is usually the one steering the ship and controlling the flow of information.
And what isn't said is often the most revealing part of all. Think about it. A person with more power, they might hold direct, steady eye contact. Someone who feels more dependent, they might look away more often. And check out their posture. Are they leaning back, open, expansive, taking up space? Or are their arms crossed, kind of making themselves smaller? All of these signals are just data points that help you map out the true power dynamic in the room. All right, so we've identified power, we get dependency, and we know how to spot the cues. Now for the final piece of the puzzle, navigating the decision itself.
And look, this isn't just some interesting theory. The entire reason we're decoding all these signals is to get real insight into how that final decision is actually going to be made. It lets you anticipate the other person's moves and truly understand where they're coming from.
So here's a simple little framework you can use to put this all into practice. First, you identify the power dynamics. Second, you assess the levels of dependency for both you and them. Third, you are constantly analyzing those verbal and nonverbal cues back and forth. You follow that path, and it leads you to a much deeper understanding of the entire decision-making process.
At the end of the day, this is the core idea. This isn't about being manipulative, it's about being perceptive. Learning to see these underlying forces is the key that unlocks why and how decisions really get made in any negotiation.
So, we'll leave you with this question to chew on. Now that you have a framework to see these hidden forces of power and dependency, how are you going to approach your next negotiation? What are you going to look for differently?
And how might that change the outcome for you?